Greetings! Welcome to Channel Otherdoc. I'm Jim. I use he, him pronouns, and today we are playing the second of our two one-shots of Life on Mars. This is a GM-less story game by Ross Cowman about the first manned mission to Mars and the effects that mission has on the crew. Today I am playing the ship's doctor, Dr. Val Ionesco, who is also he, him. And let us go around and introduce everyone, starting with Janaya. Hello!
Hello, my name is Janaya and I use she, her pronouns. And I will be playing Ellie Baker, who's the engineer on the ship and also uses she, her pronouns. And I'm very excited to play this game.
Yay! Coolness. And let's go over to Philip. Hello.
Hello, I'm Philip, also Booker's Rafer on the social medias. Today I am playing the pilot, Martin Simmons. Both he and I having he, him pronouns.
Awesome. And finally, Connie. Hey.
Hey there, I'm Connie O, and I'm going to be playing the commander. While I use she, her pronouns, Moo Cow is going to use they, them pronouns.
Excellent. I just got it. It was sitting there in front of me in writing for like the last 15 minutes or so. And somehow... Oh, cool. Thank you very much for the sub. Much appreciated, Matthias. Hi. Matthias, who's in the audience, runs the wonderful game that we try to do every other week on this channel, the Cold Ruins of Last Life. And it's much appreciated. Now, let's see. Where am I? There are hounds somewhere. I can hear them. So the way that we do this game, this is a very sort of more narrative story game. It's GM-less. We start with the trip to Mars, and that is represented on this first board here, and we have a token that we move. We're gonna use the astronaut. Basically it takes about 6 months to get to Mars. And then once we get to Mars, then we move to the second board, which is in all the various buildings that we're going to be setting up on there, the various habitation things, and moving from those to different places and describing different things. And that's how it goes. And so we just, each time we move, we take a turn. We each take a turn. So I'd like to just sort of continue just going clockwise that way. Folks like, I'll go ahead and start myself by way of demonstration. Before I do that, though, let me go over this, because I just ran off that part where I go off the script, and then I suddenly didn't come back for some reason. One thing I do need to point out is that, like we do with most games on this channel, we're going to be using the X card, the N card, and the O card. If we hit something that's crossing a line for you, any of the players can type an X in the Zoom video chat or anywhere else, or make an X symbol, and we'll back up and we'll do something else. If something happens that you're okay having in the game, but you don't want a graphic description of it, type an N in the Zoom chat, and we'll fade to black on it or put it behind a veil, basically. So it will be there, but we won't go into detail. Finally, if you're in the midst of intense role-playing and you think we might be worried you're really upset out of character, you can put an O in the chat to let us know you're okay and that we're good to keep piling on the drama. Something else we can do is put an O with a question mark after it when we say or do something and then think maybe it might be a little too much. Then everyone else can respond to that and just let us know that we're still doing okay. So, just want to make sure I got that in. Especially kind of important with GM-less games because it's who's steering? Everyone's steering. That's kind of how this goes. Actually, technically, Philip's steering this ship, but we will see how things go. Everything will be fine. Everything will be just fine. So, we will go ahead and start with this first space here. And let's see, we've all got our characters, our names, and on your turn, you move your crew member to any space on the ship, then execute one of the protocols listed on that space. In the case of the ship on the way over, which what did we name the ship again?
Grimson Roséla.
The Grimson Roséla.
It is represented by a parrot with blue and red feathers, that is wearing a giant skull mask and has a rose in its teeth.
Awesome. Actually, may I show that? I think I saw a picture. May I show that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna. I'll do that in a few minutes. I'm gonna go ahead and I'll grab it and pull it in here during someone else's turn. But for right now, what I'm going to do is so we've got in the blue triangles. It's you answer the question, you describe the thing. Or if you go into the galley, then you assign someone one of these things and put it on their name tag, and that includes yourself. So I will start. I am playing the doctor, so I'm going to grab the doctor token here, and I think I just flattened the doctor token. Okay, there we go. I think I'm going to start. I'm going to say that this is before we launch, as we're going through everything in the ship. And I think I'm going to start with who you left behind in the sort of the satellite area. I'm sort of we've already kind of set up the satellite, the initial feed just as far as on the ground. And so it's, once we get to space, we'll have to, deal with all manner of stuff up there. But I'm using it to finally just sort of send a message I'm going to say Dr. Ionesco is a bit older. Let me see. Oh, okay. Need to readjust the cameras a little bit here. I see that we've got a secondary feed coming in, so let me do that in a moment. Okay, there we go. Cool. Awesome. We're good. But we're so he's got a feed going out to his granddaughter, and essentially has been communicating to her. She's about, I want to say she's about 13, and she has sort of short, I would say, her hair cropped down about here. She's got sort of medium brown hair, and he's basically been just trying to be encouraging. Her parents are not around right now, for various reasons that we have yet to explore. But she is being taken care of. But he is just sort of talking. He's kind of talking to her and trying to just sort of express that everything's going to be fine. Got to keep everyone up on Mars healthy. Make sure they're going to survive the trip. And she keeps asking and insisting if there's any way that he can get off if the ship blows up, and he's like, no, I'll be fine. We have escape pods. Everything's going to be all right. That kind of thing. And just sort of being reassuring. And that'll be my scene. And we'll pass around. And so, yeah, like I said, it's just a description of what's, and you can get as detailed as you like, but I will go over to Janaya, and you can feel free to put your engineer anywhere in one of these spaces on the ship.
I'm gonna go to the cabin, and I think that we see Ellie carefully weighing objects, getting ready to go. And I imagine there's a certain amount of weight that we're allowed to take with us because of fuel requirements. And everybody has a lot of very sentimental items, but there's a few things that she wants to bring with her that are paper-based, which is very heavy. And while she's scanned a lot of her designs and plans into digital things that can just be carried in the computer, she has some designs that she just doesn't want to have scrutinized because she feels like people will put negative things on top of them before they're ready to be seen. And so she's pulling out things that she might want for comfort, all sort of like a scarf and a comfortable blanket, and one by one she's taking off the scale these typical emotional attachments in order to keep this very small stack of papers.
Nice. And then it's Philip's turn.
So, yes, yes, it seems to fix itself. So, now, question is, where do I go with this one? So, I think I'm going to go for into the gallery, and with this, let's say, what does you describe one of these put onto any name tag?
Yeah. So the way the galley works is that's you can talk about. This is more about sort of to a certain extent your character's opinion of either yourself or one of the other characters. So you write one of those 3 words on any of the 4 name tags, and you describe how that is true.
Okay, so I'm gonna go for no, I'm gonna go for the famous Ellie Baker for the as the engineer, and famed for mostly design of a lot of the equipment that we're using, and the utter brilliance that she has shown for her engineering skills, and that the reason that of course she is on board is because, well, who better to fix things when they break than the person who designed it?
Excellent. Very cool. And then we move over to Connie.
Okay, so Moo Cow, our wonderful commander, is going to be in the cargo hold. And even though Ellie is very famous, they unfortunately are traveling with Moo Cow, who doesn't know a lot about technology. And in the cargo hold, they're holding some kind of contraption in their hands. It looks very important and very expensive. And there was probably a label on the box about how you were supposed to use it, but Moo Cow believes that they can do pretty much anything they want. This is their ship. And damned if this thing isn't really broken, because it's definitely not doing what Moo Cow thinks it should be doing.
Nice.
And bits and bobs seem to be falling off it in places.
Excellent. I'm sure it's not important. I'm sure everything will be fine. Just taking a moment here, and I'm showing the audience the picture of our mascot, basically, or the sort of image that was come up with for this. Ship.
I drew that on my phone in like 10 seconds, so I hope you all enjoy it.
I love it.
It's delightful.
It's brilliant.
Grimson Roséla. All right. So back to me. I'm going to go ahead and we move up 1. And I'm going to go ahead and I guess I'll put the doctor on the flight deck. I think we've launched at this point. So I'll say this is as we're kind of getting up and doing other things. So the doctor is in his kind of, well, I mean, everyone's, perhaps he's in some kind of uniform. I think it's, so I'm imagining it's a blue uniform of some kind, with whatever insignia for whoever's funding this thing, has on it, and just kind of is slowly sort of getting up and looking through the glass at space, and then you can see his reflection in the glass. He has gray hair. He's in his, I want to say, kind of mid-50s. He's got kind of rough features, and he's just kind of looking and contemplating as like, it's like he's probably thinking of himself. I'm the oldest person on this flight. Why did they send me to keep everyone else alive? That is hysterical. Probably because they have no idea how to do so on their own. We'll figure it out. And that's my move.
Okay. I think I'm going to take myself over to the satellite with the question of who you left behind. And I think that Ellie is coming into the satellite room, and I imagine that there's kind of a way that we can play back messages that have been left. Like, it's not like there's a real-time communication, because that would be difficult. It's just like sort of a timed upload of things. And so there's a set of messages for Ellie, and I think that one of them is from her, the sort of partner that she left behind, who she had, built a home with, and there had been some sort of definitely strong feelings when she just left on the other person's side. And there's just a set of 4 messages from 4 days of like updates about the dog and about the house. And you see each one come up, and she plays it, and then there's a button to push that says reply or delete, and everyone, she just pushes delete down all of them and turns and walks out of the room.
Oh man. Oh, that hurts. That's good. All right. Let's move on.
My turn. Okay, so I think for this one, there we go. Okay. Wrong damn section of that. So I'm gonna go to I'm going to go into the satellite as well and do listen to a response from Martin's sister, who was so to be part in this mission. Of course, there would be fierce competition, and Martin and his sister, they were the two. It was going to be either one of them. So fierce competition, and hearing a message from her saying that she hopes that he does well, but she should have got it. She should have been the one to get the job. He responds with, "My darling sister, although competition has been fierce for this, I would not have been here and as capable as this without you. Our rivalry spurred me into greater skill sets, and on the day I pulled slightly ahead. Maybe you would have been better. Maybe you would be better at this job than I, but I will do the best I can to ensure that this crew, the commander, the doctor, and my engineer, will return safely. My love to you."
Awesome. Let me also just briefly say thank you so much for the bits, Drone. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. That was great. Yay! As I always say when this happens, okay, we got to do this for real. There are bits on the line now.
Okay. The commander will be taking a turn in the galley, and I will be giving the token of dedication to our Dr. Lunesco. So, Mutau spends most of their time on the moon, where recently there was a plague of gigantic proportions. And Dr. Val went and saved a whole bunch of lives on the moon. So Mutau, when they became commander of this mission, specifically requested that this doctor come and be on their ship.
Cool. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks so much. Let me go ahead and move the astronaut. Here we go. And let's see. I'm going to move to the cargo area. And Dr. Ionesco is digging through now that they're kind of well underway. Just making sure of all the various medical supplies are in place and that they may need at this point for the sort of the longer term. As both from not so much for what they need while on the flight, that's already been dealt with, gotten set up, but for when they're on Mars. And inventory was already done long ago, but he's looking over some of the various. He has in his hands a hypo spray that he's actually used for some time. He actually used it on the moon. It's one that he actually, the thing is, it doesn't even actually work anymore. He doesn't really use it as a hypo spray any longer, but it has sentimental value, because that was the one that got him through that horrifying plague situation. And he kind of it's one of those things where it's like he considered having it bronzed, but then realized he would not be able to bring it along because it would just go over the weight limit. So it's just its own thing. It's in shrink wrap. And he's just kind of looking at it and he's like, well, this is how this happens, It's taking you to even further out than we ever put you in the first place, he says, talking to it for no apparent reason. And that's my turn.
Okay, I'm going to take Ellie to the cargo as well. And I think that Ellie starts doing inventory of all the various equipment that we're going to need since we're now about to go halfway through our flight to Mars. She's starting to transition the equipment from things for holding to getting things in place for landing. And there is one atmospheric reader that helps us understand how the atmosphere is once we get to Mars. And somebody, I have no idea who, has clearly done something to this along the way. And Ellie just looks at this kind of like beautiful piece of engineering that is now just broken and gets so mad and just kind of flashes back over all the time that she spent trying to design it in committee, because the committee kept coming back and being like, your ideas are going too far. You can't do that. You need to dial it back. And she pulled it back as far as she could finally to get it approved. And as she's going back over that, she finally realizes, well, she could just take this back to her cabin and redesign it the way that she originally wanted to, that the committee wouldn't approve because of their stupid safety ideas, and then use it that way instead.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Martin, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, I think
Yeah. It's back to me already. Okay. That's Oh wait, it's my turn. What do we do? Okay, so I'm going to go over to the cabin, and Martin's going to be looking over both. Over his little medal collection that he's gained over his career. Also, opening a surprise box he hasn't quite seen yet, and finding that his sister has left him a gift of her medals with a note saying, "Bring these back, you idiot." So was it 16? Sister, seriously?
So wonderful.
And that we be.
Nice. Okay. Commander Moo Cow walks on to the flight deck. They look slightly troubled. In their reflection, they are blindingly bald. It's a stylistic choice, one they feel proud of and can fully get behind. They touch their hand where there's a faint scar, and we see a flashback that previously in the episode we had also seen in the galley in relation to the moon plague, and there's a light scar on the back of their hand that they're rubbing. They look up to meet their own eyes in their reflection and are rolling a lint roller over their uniform, which is immaculate and pure. And as they lift the lint roller up to examine it, they seem distressed at how clean it is.
Nice. Oh, this is wonderful. Okay. Moving on. The doctor is going to go to the galley. And is sitting and eating in the galley, probably not too far from Simmons, and just sort of is then they're chatting, and it's just about some kind of logic puzzle that happens a lot. It's fairly common in like sort of Air Force and other folks who like to fly things, and it just sort of strikes Dr. Ionesco that just that everything that he heard about Simmons is right, and that the guy is brilliant. Is definitely an incredible pilot, just based on how they've been doing so far. This is obviously during one of those times when he's not having to actually steer the thing, but it's just amazing that the doctor is just amazed that he can keep all of those different things, about trajectory and just in his head, and so it seems pretty awesome to him. That's my turn.
Okay. I think I'm gonna go to the flight deck. I've redesigned this atmospheric reader, and I'm starting to sort of do preliminary install testing of like moving the switch from traveling gear to landing gear, and as I'm setting it up, the commander is on the deck and makes some various comments about the design of the object and how it's going to work, and I get really excited, and I'm like, well, actually I've managed to change it, so we're actually going to be able to look at data real time, which will allow the pilot to override everything that's going on and make real time adjustments rather than doing full strategic planning. And I think that Mukau is like, but that's not how it's done. We have a meeting. We look over the process of how the landing is going to go. We use the preliminary readings to make a trajectory, and then we stick with that trajectory based on the probability of whether or not that's going to be correct or not. And Ellie goes kind of back and forth on this like argument, but knows that she can't push against command too much or she'll lose all of her freedom through scrutiny, and finally gives in and tones back the design and installs it and runs a test. And as the test bar is kind of running through, she looks up in the glass and she sees all of space out in front of her, this infinite possibility, and then her vision just pulls forward to her face reflected, and it's still the same face she had on Earth.
Well, Martin's turn now. Martin's going to go towards the cargo hold, and is going to pull out quite clearly a design that he's probably requested for just a very very compact, very lightweight version of controls that he'll be using along with tablets for going over landing procedures, emergency procedures, and just going over every little detail of what should happen and what to do if this goes wrong, that goes wrong. Is it covering every basis and just going over just doing another test run of those procedures to make sure that he does his job correctly, because ultimately if he messes up, then they're all gone, and his sister was right. Yeah, that'll be that.
Okay, so this next scene, Commander Mukau is going to be in the satellite room. They are recording a message to send back to Earth, and then it will be relayed to the moon, wherein they go over quite a bit of advice, it seems, to other people who look up to this commander about how to live their life and achieve their dreams, take care of themselves, be healthy, be all you can be, live the Earth dream, and get out amongst the stars someday by the pulling up your bootstraps and strapping them to a rocket. And as they're recording this message, they speak about the incident on the flight deck where they did their duty and talked to that so famous but oh so uppity engineer Ellie. And when they're done recording, you can see that they're probing around the recording device. And that's it.
All right. We're almost there. So, and this is the last move we're going to have on the ship. So, Dr. Ionesco goes to his cabin. I will describe what gives him comfort. Goes to his cabin and starts playing some music. It's sort of as he's got some time here. It kind of lies down. Well, as much as you can lie down in space. And this is listening to it, and it's sort of kind of sort of a light distortion rock type thing, and it's a recording of his son playing and singing. And it's something that he had a lot of potential before the incident on the moon. He was playing a concert up there when the plague happened, and he did not make it. And the thing is, there is a certain amount of regret on Val's part, because he hated his son's music and only went to that concert because it's like, okay, you're here, I'm working here, sure. But he finally, as he was there, sort of at the concert, seeing how everyone got into it, and it was like, okay, maybe my son did good after all. And he didn't get a chance to tell him that so much. He wasn't sure if he could hear him at the time or not. But it's something that, he always, after he had to start helping take care of his granddaughter Claudia, his son's daughter. That he would share that this recording with her on a regular basis, and she loves it, and that really pleases Val. So that's why he listens to it, because it sort of is a reminder to him that even if he sees something that doesn't seem to make any sense to him at first, there is a purpose for it somewhere. Okay.
That was very good.
Thank you.
So I guess I'm going to go to the satellite. We're just, putting the last of the things in order before we start our landing procedures. And Ellie has checked everything over and made sure that all the equipment is running right, and had to sort of reach the point where she lets go of control. Like the engineering is done, and now it's up to other people. And there's nothing more that she can do to control her own destiny. And she goes into the satellite room and she hits record, and she replies to one of the messages that she's gotten from Jessica, but she doesn't have any, she hasn't read it before she replies. And she just says, hey, I guess if you get this, I want you to know that in true me fashion, I haven't listened to a single message you've sent. I mean, when I said that I was leaving and I probably wasn't going to make it back, that's what I meant. But now we're at the point where I'm really gone, and I realize that I'm really not making it back. And I don't know, I worry about you and your feelings and your well-being. And I know you have the dogs, and then she kind of like reaches into her pocket and pulls out like a picture of her with a bunch of friends and this kind of awesome bar, and everybody's laughing, and she looks at it and she goes, yeah, you'll be fine. And she deletes the message.
Oh my god.
Oh, I'm getting emotionally torn apart here.
We're not even on Mars yet.
Yeah, that's the thing. This is just the getting there. Okay, so as I've been to everywhere else, so last one, I'm going to go to the flight deck. Most of what probably the others would see is one looking quite calm, gazing out. But internally, he at this point where they're getting close to the landing, internally he is questioning whether his sister would have been the better choice. But knowing that he is here, he is the one chosen, and that at this point, their lives are in his hands, and so it's, but not showing that at all in his face. Just opening his eyes and looking out into space, then down to his personal reflection in the glass, and he's quite young. He's maybe late 20s of age. I'd say he's probably the youngest person there, and that's probably one of the reasons why he's questioning, why are suddenly all these three elder, more experienced people's lives in my hands? So he's quite young. No, he's wearing his normal uniform. The medals on that would be across his breast. If someone was to actually look and take note, they're not his; they are his sister's.
Cute. Okay. So, the camera comes into the cabins where Commander Cow is standing on a chair, digging into the lights in the ceiling. A small spark comes from their hand, and they say, "Finally," and get off the chair, walk over to their desk, and open a drawer and drop a microphone into it next to 4 other microphones labeled cargo, galley, flight deck, satellite, and picks up a picture, gazing at it as it gives them comfort, and says, "Finally, I found them all. If only I could have let the engineer know that their idea is brilliant. If only I hadn't had to talk up all of these humiliating restrictions that are placed on us by the man. I don't know if I can trust young Simmons. They might be a plant. But even though I couldn't say it in my message to you, my dears, I love you." And they kiss the picture, placing it on their desk. And you see in the picture 7 cats.
Aw. Oh my god. Wow.
Either we're going to make it back fine or we're all going to die.
Yeah, I know, right? This will be interesting. Oh, wow. Yeah. Oh, we've made it to Mars, everyone! Yay! I'm going to go ahead and
Somehow not comforting.
flip the view over here. It's like, So we go ahead and carry our tokens over to the other map here. And we can start looking and seeing where we want to go. So the way this works, it works just like the ship in certain parts. So whenever you go into an area that's got a blue triangle in it, you pick one of the things. You pick one of the blue triangles in there if you want, and describe that thing. Again, it has an area. The recreation area this time is kind of like the galley on the other page, where you can assign these traits to people, yourself or to others. A couple of things. When you go to an area that's got this red insignia, then you, if you're the first person to put a token there, then what you have to do is, instead of picking one of the question marks there, you describe deploying the module, because we got to set it up. So if you're the first one there, you just describe that, and then that'll take care of it. And the next person who lands there can do one of the question marks if they want, answer one of the questions. The other thing that's a little weird is the rover. So, and again, after the first person in there deploys the rover, but then whoever next lands on the rover has an option, because you're then taking the rover out to somewhere on the planet. That actually puts you back, and I've just flipped it over, but so that puts you somewhere on the planet. Let me go ahead and show everybody, just so that I've got that in front of me. There we go. I keep forgetting. I gotta keep OBS fast and loose here so that I can move it around. So you're gonna see these different locations that you can go to. You pick one whenever you're in the rover, and that's the one that you go to. You bring someone else, one of the other crew members, and both of you describe the thing that is on the thing that you've chosen. So, like, say for example, you go to the ice field, then the two of us, if you go and you decide to take me with you to the ice field, with the two of us talk about the work we do together. And we can have a conversation if you like in character. We can make that a scene. Or it can just be description, however you want to do it. And then you roll a d6 over in the Roll20. and then you describe the result, whatever it is that happens at the end of it, and that's how that works. So, that being the case, my next thing I shall do is I shall go ahead and let me transition back over, and I'm going to put the sun on the first spot here. Hopefully, folks can see that. Is that different enough from everything else on the map? You can see where the sun is? Okay, cool. And I'm going to go ahead and let's see. Where shall I put the doctor? I think I shall set up the lab. So, Dr. Ionesco is helping to set up the lab. There's certain things that basically there's certain experiments that are going to be going on that he's going to need to help out with. Just not because it's not only he's there to for people's health, but also there to to do science, mostly in sort of areas of biology and some geology. He has a little bit of knowledge of that, so he's been setting stuff like it's basically. I imagine the lab has kind of got this is this sort of module that's attached up to the body of the ship, which is what I think makes up this this base on Mars that we've set up. And we've just moved the satellite up here and deployed it, the larger satellite that we're using now that we're down here to transmit to Earth. So we see him kind of helping to roll this the connector out and kind of attaching it, making sure the vacuum seal is working so that we can breathe when we're in there. Then sets up a number of heating lamps and there are a number of plants. There's a little bit of plant biology that he's going to be working with, see how they're affected and see if they can grow and how they're affected a little bit there. A lot of that's going to be done down in the agricultural dome, but he has just a couple of them here. He also has just a few samples that on slides mostly, but are that size of microorganisms that they've brought with them, just to kind of see how they react again to the Martian environment. Nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary, and they've done tests and stuff previously, but on Earth, but they want to see how it is out here. And then just sort of the area where you're going to be spending a lot of time looking at rocks. And so, setting up pressure chambers, sort of areas where you can grow crystals, that kind of thing. And finally kind of, gets everything in place. And, of course, then puts the final object that is absolutely necessary, which is a little thermos, which he hides behind one of the monitors. And that is where the vodka is. That's the most important object in this room. And that's my turn.
Okay. I don't know what I want to do. I guess I'll deploy the workshop. That seems like a logical thing to do.
Okay.
So the workshop, I imagine it deploys much the same way. It kind of has a tube that came out and sort of a prefab structure that folds out in some kind of modular thing. And it looks incredibly barren and white and boring when Ellie first gets into it. And then I think that we see her walk in and set down, plug in a little tiny USB key into the music system and flip it on. And Donna Summers just starts pouring through the speakers that are designed to be like more for playing instructions on how to do the thing that you're working on. And she's just basically pulled the speakers out and replaced it with Donna Summers. And she starts like rolling in all the equipment that she had in the cargo hold for building things. And you have like one side which is set up for the required state engineering tasks, and the other side, like, it's a little bit cramped because it's really supposed to be over both sides, and the other side is just Ellie's individual engineering tasks, which is full of these notes and these books and things like that. And she basically takes a piece of tape and puts it down the middle of the room, and basically writes on it in Sharpie general use with an arrow and Ellie's use with an arrow in the other way. And you can kind of see like this absolute division. So you walk into the room and one side is very white, clean, orderly, everything is in boxes. And the other side is like your dad's workshop, you know, that like tool deck with like random things and half-finished projects, and some posters of disco queens up on the wall that are like really on thin, flimsy paper so that it didn't take too much weight. And yeah, so that's what the workshop looks like.
Oh, so much hilarity. So Martin's just going to go to the satellite and, of course, going to do as he feels like his first probable job as pilot, to reporting back to Earth that they've had a successful and safe landing. Everything seems to be going according to plan at this moment in time. Everyone else seems to be setting up. And reporting back to his sister, why did you send those damn medals with me? That'll be me.
Alrighty then, let's see. Commander Cow is going to go to the agricultural dome and set that up. That's the main reason they're here. Not only are they very good at organizing people, but they lived in a dome on the moon. So they have a very strong connection to these systems and how they work. They start setting up lights and augmenting cycles for the windows to open and close with various filters for radiation. They hook up the solar panel connections so that the night fans come on, recycling the air. And there's a space in the middle that they set up instead of in an agricultural row system like the rest of the dome, into a miniature ecosystem, a park, if you will, where the plants grow out of control, just a touch of human influence so that they don't spread out beyond their bounds. And you might not tell from the outside, where it just kind of looks like a mishmash of plants. But if you squeeze through this one plant here, you can sit down, hear the water systems flowing almost like a waterfall in the distance. The light glistens off the fresh mistings on the plants around you. And it's like a wonderful spring day at the park.
Nice. Very cool. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and move the sun along here. Yeah, this is basically a year that we spend on Mars for the there should be like 12 suns up here. So let me see. Where shall we go next? I think I'll go to the galley. And UNESCO goes through his daily routine. And mostly this is just basically he doesn't do checkups on people daily, but he goes over their records and goes over whatever sort of biomonitors that might come with their suits, especially if they've been out. Checking all that, getting ready to file reports, that kind of thing. He essentially will. What else does he do every day? Aside, he'll get up. He gets up. He exercises. He before he does all that, and then checks everything over. When he something that he also does pretty much every day at around lunchtime is he will stand out here, not too far from where the panels are, and he can come out and he sort of watches this. I should have probably done a little bit of research as to exactly whether it would be lunchtime or not, and where the sun is and all that. But he looks at the horizon because he likes that particular time of day for doing that, and just sort of reflects on first couple of days it's really cool, but then it's just sort of like it's really barren out there, and starts kind of imagining sort of shapes and things that we kind of see in the sky and in the on the ground and things of that nature. It's just sort of a little game that he plays with himself, and it amuses him. And then he's working on projects, usually in the lab, for much of the time, and then in the evening, he will go do some recreation with folks, and then he will make a recording in an audio journal, just of a few things of seems like a string of numbers that he's reciting into it, and then tucks the recording away, and he always does this in private and does not show it to anyone. And that's my day.
Dun dun dun. Okay. I'm gonna go into the galley for a gathering. And I feel like, we've sort of gotten into our rhythm of being on Mars, but we've naturally moved into this rhythm of being in our own space. Like, it's very strange that we kind of rarely ever see anybody else. Like, I'll work in the workshop and the doctor's in the lab, and the captain is kind of walking around overseeing things, but nothing really happens. And I think that as independent as she is, that Ellie starts to realize that she's getting progressively weirder over time, without some sort of social interaction to put pressure on her into conforming in some way. And that everybody is getting just a little feral. And so she sends out an invitation that basically says, please join me for Sunday night dinner. And she sets up the galley so that we can all sit together at a table, and it looks kind of like being at home. She's taken some weird scrap plastic and things from the inventions and made little flowers that are in the center of the table, and she's got weird pieces of metal for actual plates instead of trays, and everybody comes in and is like, what is this weird woman doing? And nobody feels any comfort about her being weird when they walk into the room and she flips the switch on the wall and the lights turn into this kind of color changing rotating thing, and she's like, in my world, friends get together on Sunday nights and have dinner together. And since this is my world now, too, I think we should try. And she sits down and tries to have some sort of like awkward conversations of like, so how was your day? What are you reading? You know, like she would have at home. And I think that everybody kind of awkwardly goes through the motions because they have to, but it also provides this check to keep people from completely spinning off the deep end.
Nice.
I have to say, for my part, I think Ionesco would be delighted at the whole thing, but he might keep that inside.
Does Ionesco spike everybody's after dinner coffee with vodka?
He offers he offers to spike Ellie's. He will show the thermos.
She absolutely
kind of
accepts.
like, yeah, he'll do that, but then he won't reveal it to anyone else.
I guess it's that as Martin being pilot, being trained to be observed, he probably spots that, but chuckles to himself and just ignores it. Like, nope, not telling the commander that. Nope. Yeah. I'm gonna go for into the lab for because I feel like as Martin's clearly younger person there, they're wanting to do some kind of physical experiments of adaptation of the human body there. So he's doing. So he's probably working with the doctor, doing the whole on treadmill and all kinds of experiments, things that would happen to. Things for human body, all testing all that. As of course, he needs a use there other than being just a way of getting them there and back. He's got to do something while there. So, and being the youngest member of the crew, it falls on his shoulders. Damn it, sister! Why didn't you just do the job instead of me? As he's in probably his underwear, running like, why? This just me, doctor. This is still humiliating. God damn it.
I kind of feel like after a couple of days, it's just one of those things where Ionesco will come in and just be like, "All right, ready to be a guinea pig today."
I suppose we can do this again.
It's kind of that kind of thing.
Oh, yeah, getting over that.
Nice. So now that we've established ourselves more on Mars, we're pretty set up. The commander is going to make sure that our rover traveled here safely and give it the once over, because they're looking forward to going on some trips and exploring this new world. They rip open every panel on the machine. It's well appointed, like the cushions are hyperinflating, super ergonomic, like crash couches with 17 buckles that you don't even feel on your body, guaranteed, or your money back. And the front panel, where there's normally a windshield, is just a giant tube television. And nobody knows why it's a tube television, because we're way beyond that kind of technology. But it shows a 360-degree view of around the rover, but it looks really weird because it's shortened and squeezed into this tube television. And there's a hatch on top that's marked emergency, beware explosives, and a grate on the floor that has already started accumulating dust inside. And then they put everything back together.
Very cool. All right. Let's move ahead here. Okay. Let me see. Yeah. Yeah, I think we'll do this. I'm going to take the rover And I'm going to ask. Let's see, who shall come with me for this trip? I think I will ask. I'm getting ready to go take some samples from the ice field. I think. I think it's. I'm thinking maybe we'll take. I'm trying to think either in terms of like the A, mission structure, but then B, who have I not really interacted with as much yet, and it's really it's everyone. So I guess we'll take Simmons out to do some work in the ice field. And so he can drive. And I think that basically it's a scene of where we're going out and taking samples, and we're kind of cutting some of the ice out and putting them in there, and just sort of looking out at it. And, it's like this is. It's delightful, isn't it? It's you rarely get to see this part of the planet. From what we get out of the we only get the couple of angles from the rover. It's good. Can't hear you. I think you're muted.
That's better. God damn it. I mean, a couple of views from the rover, but much easier to drive that than it is to pilot the ship.
I can imagine that. Do you think we're you think we're going to be able to fit enough in one trip for all the samples we got to get here?
Well, if from what I've seen and know of our wonderful and incredibly brilliant engineers' work, I think we will be just precisely on the weight limit, and more space will be needed. I think whether the commander knows or not about everything, I think that might be that might be a thing. That and I will have a sip of that vodka now.
He reaches under the seat and hands it over.
Man pulls out a couple of shot glasses and goes, "Bottoms up."
Do you have any idea? He sort of takes the head off. Do you have any idea how long I had to sit there with a calculator to figure that out enough to get it out up there? It's crazy. But although actually we're probably in suits while we're out here, so it's kind of going to be difficult.
Probably think they wait till they're back in the robe.
Yeah, probably when we get back in there. That's fair. Sort of communicating. He's like, all right, well, if nothing else, we should have plenty of water after we get through and make sure we get all the contamination situation together with all that. Do you think everything's all right with the commander?
I think the commander is different to other commanders that I have experienced. I don't know. Yes, they seem to have a like for taking things apart and putting them back together. And I had to rescrew a couple of panels in the rover. But when it came, I think they've been here and unscrewed a couple of things. I don't know what they're looking for. I just hope they don't do anything to the return shuttle.
Well, they might be just trying to occupy themselves somewhat. It's the thing I'm saying. Ellie actually had a point that we do need to talk to each other. If we don't do that, then we we kind of go off our noodles, you know. It's important. I think. I mean, it's we need to I think make an effort to include the commander in things. Because
I agree.
It's important. It's important. Then they don't have to worry so much about.
I agree. I may have a way, between you and me, I may have a way to relax them a little bit. I'll work.
Excellent. I'm going to make a roll now. Because I must now determine how this ends. 6. Okay, the night sky. Excellent. Last time I was here, I landed on injury, so that's good. So I think we just sort of sit back as this is going, and I do this thing where it's like, "Oh, do you like alternative metal?"
I'll listen. I'll give anything a listen.
It's a bit of an odd thing. This is Nikolai. He did some things, and I punch it up, and you get this sort of it's the sort of a slow droning metal type. Well, not droning per se, but it's sort of a slower kind of somewhere between rock and blues, but more sort of metal type deal thrown in, and it's like. Never appreciated it until, much later, but he was very good. And then we drink. As the stars come out and we're sort of sitting there listening to weird alternative metal under the night sky. Which I imagine is... It's really weird the first time that comes up and you see that little green dot and you're like, oh, that's where we come from. And I'll say that is the scene.
Okay. I'm going to move Ellie back to the workshop. And I think that she's really gotten into her groove by now as far as like speeding up the work that she has to do for the mission and getting to do her own experiments. And like little bits of her engineering are starting to kind of show up in the module. Slowly but surely, people are being offered a slider for lighting instead of their cabin, instead of an on and off, just like random little life improvements that don't necessarily seem like they should go in that way. Like you definitely have like the lighting can move up and down, but she explains that now the brightest level of lighting, you should make sure not to leave that on when you leave the room. So little things like that. But as she's doing this, she starts cataloging the work that she's going to have to be doing for the mission so that she doesn't get behind. And she kind of like is rearranging the drawers. So this is like month 3, this is month 4, and she gets down to like the end months, and she starts to realize that the last section for transitioning the return shuttle into transitioning the equipment off of the original ship to the return shuttle does not have the fasteners that would allow us to attach the equipment that we're going to need completely for the trip home. So she looks through everything again and is like, well, I mean, the return shuttle should work, but we won't have any way to communicate, and we won't necessarily be able to use all of our readings equipment because everything will be facing the wrong way on this shuttle if we transfer the equipment over. And she kind of goes through and looks again for the boxes and realizes that it's not just that the boxes are missing, and it's not that there's a spot where the equipment should go, that it's not, but that it just wasn't in the original manifest.
Yeah, I think we're going to die.
Yay! Mars! That's what we came here for, right?
So
So
Martin's now going to move to the agricultural dome, and so what grows there is a little hidden patch, which is probably in a corner away from where most of the other experiments are going, and that's where he does keep his little recreational secret. So yes, he's going pot on the moon. He's experimenting with moon pot. So he's just he's gonna just try to look around, making sure that nothing's going to go away, and try some, and probably find that it's actually really good. Just a little bit at a time, just that it's really, really good. Thinking, I think I found a way to calm the commander.
Oh my god.
Nice.
And that'd be me.
Cool. So that Friday night gathering is still happening, and Commander Cow goes to the galley a bit early, hoping to catch Ellie before the others arrive. They've brought with them a casserole that they learned how to bake on the moon, which doesn't have the same atmospheric pressures and microgravity that we're dealing with on Mars, but it's a pretty good recipe that wasn't too hard to augment to make come out essentially the way they planned it here on Mars in their fancy space cooking kitchen. And as they're setting it down, they greet the engineer and thank them for having started this gathering tradition and not being so uptight about rules and regulations like some other people that the commander doesn't feel they need to mention at this point. And would ask if at some point soon, maybe they could go on an expedition on the rover. They've heard that there's some interesting debris around a derelict rover out there from one of the previous missions. And that's my scene.
Cool. Awesome. I will move us along. All right. Okay. So there we go. And let's see. So just trying. Normally, I just look through here and it's like, okay, what grabs me? And I'm like, so I was trying to figure that out. All right. Yeah, sure. Let's do this. Is it early? It's a little early. Sure. Why not? So the doctor is going to the satellite, up to the satellite, and sending a report to Earth. It's kind of again one of those where he kind of is made sure to do it at a time when no one else is going to be nearby. And he's feeding the data from his recordings sort of in, and it's sort of it's this long string of numbers that he's sending back. And he just presses a few buttons and is like, just sort of at the end of it, so it's after he's sent his sort of overall medical report, medical data, and he sends this string of numbers, and he says, just leaves a brief recording at the end that where he says, "I think it's going pretty well. The hope is that it's going to hold together until we figured out everything we need to figure out. But I have hope. I think it's going to work out, provided nobody panics. That's kind of the key. Good luck, darling." And sends the transmission, sort of sits back. And hopefully that'll keep them busy for a while. And that's my scene.
Okay. So, I think that Ellie is going to take the commander to the derelict, but mostly because she didn't really have permission to go out there on her own. Like, she doesn't have the ability to just take the rover for more than a test drive because she's not really a researcher. She's not a pilot. She's not in charge of the mission. And she wants to see what materials are out there that might be useful to make the ship actually operational to go home. She hasn't told anybody that this stuff is missing. And she's just kind of trying to take a look. But yeah, she's gonna just kind of do her best to feel out if the commander understands if there's another plan for the mission beyond what they've been given. So I think that she would just, be real casual and chat about ship stuff and the different air purification changes that she's made to reduce the dust, and then be like, yeah, it's been pretty good so far. I feel like everything's been going real smooth, Commander, but honestly, if we had to stay longer, we probably could stay longer, but did they put anything in place for that? Like, what would happen if, say, due to weather, we had to stay longer? I don't really know what the timeline is. What's the timeline here on our research and things we have to do?
The commander, as you were getting into the rover, was very excited about this whole trip. They were like, you drive. I'm too antsy to go out and be on the face of Mars. Really out there. It's going to be great. And as you bring up this conversation, they look at you with side eye, stand up and start pacing. And they're like, it's interesting you bring that up. Yes, because I do know that, not every mission goes as planned. Indeed, some go very far awry. And it's a tragedy how things can go bad so quickly in situations beyond your control. Luckily for us, the corporations know what's best. They've given us everything that we possibly need to survive here on Mars. I'm sure you'd agree. Wink, wink. And, they all say that, everyone gets a little bit of a delay, but you can make it through just by scrounging a little here or there. Well, I happen to know for a fact that sitting somewhere in the ice fields is a dropship with extra supplies and actually enough fuel to get a willing and daring enough crew all the way to Europa. Now, I'm not saying that's what we're going to do. I'm not saying that that's anything that we want necessarily. It's just an interesting tidbit I'd picked up around.
Commander, you know that Europa is significantly farther from Mars than Mars is from Earth.
Oh, yes, I have definitely looked at the schedules on flying times and trajectories and slingshot maneuvers, and, approximately which planes would be calculable to use the maximum fuel efficiency to avoid delays from asteroids or, equinoxes or the lining up of the planets. No, yes, I'm sure it's quite a long way, isn't it?
Yes. And the corporations had you look into how far that was?
Oh, I mean, I only work for one corporation.
Of course. See,
I'm glad we're all on the same side here, engineer. I love this brisk morning air up on Mars.
Yes, it is brisk. I think that Ellie just starts to kind of kick through all the different supplies on the ground, trying to figure out, if there's anything there that's usable. Do you, know how this rover broke down?
I mean, I only have what was in the field report, but as you can see, there's some light laser scarring on the right front tire. There's mild scraping right behind the driver's side that could indicate there was a small puncture wound as from a meteorite or perhaps a small projectile weapon. There's faint scarring across the surface of Mars itself, where you can see there might have been scuff marks, perhaps from a smaller rover. And yes, it does seem that their satellite dish is caked in what could be called debris.
Of course, Commander. Well, I'll see if I can find anything interesting for our little base. Now,
Capital idea.
I'll roll. I got a 5, which is a storm. So I think what we see is that while clearly protocol would demand that one of us was keeping an eye out for changes in Martian weather, both of us were actually more focused on doing our own thing without the other person entirely knowing what we were doing. And Ellie is trying to look like she's looking for materials, but is actually trying to look and research what the fuck happened with this rover. And she gets kind of underneath it and can't see anything coming. And all of a sudden she can just feel the increase in the pressure in the wind, and she knows what it is. And she looks up and sees just this wall of dust storm moving towards them. And she grabs the commander by their ankle and pulls them underneath the thing and basically closes them inside the derelict rover. And they're just stuck inside this really tiny space as this dust storm just rages around them. And it's so loud that they can't share communications back and forth even through their speakers. It's just this deafening vibration. And both of them look up at the rover that they're sheltered under, and underneath it is carved a symbol that does not belong to the corporations and does not belong to the government. And Ellie has no idea what it is.
Okay. This is getting more and more interesting by the second.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I love how Jim was like, it doesn't have to be traumatic. It's like,
Yeah, no,
how dare
God.
you?
that's fine.
Is this a way, right? We're trying to one up each other on all the things. All right. Okay, if that's how we're going. Good. I'm going to go for a daily routine at this point. At this point, I'm going to bring out a little bit a small phone that has been recording little transmissions into little segments for only activated when different people have been in different areas for tiny military grade concealed microphones, which are hidden all over the place. They barely weigh anything individually, so he's there looking through, just having a full full copy for of all the communications, of all the conversations that have gone on. So he has, however, made sure to erase the ones that him, myself, and Jim have had in himself and Dr. Nonesco, maybe the one, have had to do with banned substances on this area. But everything else, he's not really been listening to it much, but he has all those recordings.
Nice. Okay. What's the commander gonna do today? That sandstorm was pretty bad. Took a lot of wind out of their sails, you might say, and they go into the lab, which is surprisingly unoccupied at the moment. And they think about why they really came here. They think about their future and the future of the human race, and especially important, the future of cats. And what it means for a cat to exist in a universe like this, filled with bipedal animals who think they're so much smarter than you and can decide your destiny. Good old Binky back home, they always knew what to do. And Margaret was picky, especially when it came to eating. But that fine sense of taste always led to decisions that was just immaculately perfect and went with the moment in such a way that you could see divine elegance before your eyes. Yes, for the cats. This was all for the cats.
Yay! Well, the sun will move in a moment, but first we're going to take a break so that I can go in the next room and laugh hysterically for a while.
You can.
And then look at cat pictures. So we will be back in about 5 or 10 minutes. We shall see you soon. we have returned. And let us go ahead and move the sun into our 5th month. Yeah. And where do I want to go? You would think I'd have thought about this while we were doing this, but no. Let's see. So I think... I don't know if that... I'm trying to make sure I'm doing stuff that continues to fit with the fiction. But yeah, I think that so. But if I'm out of line, please let me know with this. But I'm going to go to the recreation area. I think... And I think what this scene actually is it's Dr. Ionesco in the morning, just sort of, he's rubbing his eyes, he's got a little bit of a headache, and he's looking at a few, like, there's like glitter and confetti that's like been strewn around sort of in the exercise area. And he's flashing back and remembering that the previous night, that he hung out with Ellie for a while, and they were listening to some of her music in the gym area. So they were listening to a bunch of Donna Summer, and kind of drinking vodka and dancing and that kind of thing. And he just sort of reflects that it's like, it was nice enough. It was just one of those things where it's like he realized that he cannot, he does not have the same tolerance that he used to, which is something he was well aware of, but at the same time, it's like, he's slowly picking some stuff up and cleaning up a bit. And he's like, that he thinks that by this point in the trip, yes, he's thinking about Ellie, is like, he loves her to death, but he thinks she is kind of messy, and he sort of reflects to himself, I got to be careful about cut back on some of these nights that we're having, because she's going to get me killed if I keep doing this. My heart's not going to take it. And that's my turn. I'll go ahead and fill that in.
I love it. Gosh. Yeah, I also probably should have been thinking about where I wanted to go next. I'm so torn between the idea of like this like eventual possible destruction and what the fuck is going on with the cats that I can't like.
So many choices.
I am a cat. Okay, so but I think that shit, I'm so sorry. Okay, I think that I'm just going to take Ellie, who is currently still out on the rover, and I think I'm gonna put her in the satellite, and she's going to give a report back to Earth, and she's basically sending a report back to some of the engineers that she had worked with on the project before, that were like kind of the naysayers of her work. And she's giving the report, and the report is very much about how things are going. She has left out the fact that she has slowly but surely transformed this entire space module into the disco chalet of Mars. But she is talking about how things are working. And she's trying to kind of infer in the report without saying it outright that by leaving it out, that like in her steps of this is what I did and that went well, this is what I did and that went well, this is what I did and that went well, this is where the step where I get everything ready to get the ship ready to go home, that's just blank. And she's hoping that someone will notice the fact that she didn't talk about that step at all.
Oh, things get more and more interesting by the second there, don't they? Okay. Okay. So continue on. I'm going to take the commander out on the rover into the dunes for an honest conversation.
Yeah. Nice.
Just kind of on the dunes going, well, Commander, how do you think the mission is going so far?
Well, young Simmons, I must say we're having a positively wonderful time here on Mars. I mean, I've seen inside the workshop, and, well, that engineer we brought along, they just really know their stuff. I say that we'd be in a lot of trouble if they weren't fixing everything that went wrong around there. And I'm so glad I invited the doctor to join us. That Lunesco got ahead on him. Dedicated individual, doesn't give up, always has to get exactly what needs to be done, and do it right. Now, while I say that, I feel like I haven't seen much of you, my boy. What do you get up to? I mean, it's not like you're flying around the planet all the time. I'd like to know more about what you're feeling.
Well, in all honesty, Commander, I think I have in part been running a small experiment of my own, which when we step back into the rover, I would request you partake of some. So it's very calming, actually. Yes.
An experiment of your own, you say?
Yes.
I do admire your initiative. And this experiment you're running, it's not dangerous or anything, is it?
No, it is quite relaxing, and I mean, if as successful as it has been, it might prove quite a lucrative business venture at some point. We don't know at this point, but yes, it could work out very nicely. It certainly has been so far.
A little bit of that entrepreneurial spirit on Mars, hey? Well, that's humans for you, isn't it? Always trying to get to the next big thing, make some more money. Nothing wrong with that.
I would say it's less about the money, more than the relaxation that this brings.
Oh, that's pleasant news to hear. Good on you, boy.
Yes.
Maybe we should stop walking around these red dunes and go take a look at this experiment of yours.
We'll get back into the rover, and I think we'll partake in some fashion.
The commander is definitely going to partake.
And require a D6 roll at this point. Okay. 3. So we're just quietly smoking pot. Just
Hanging out in the rover.
not a massive amount, not enough to get us to a ridiculous state, but enough to promote entire relaxation.
Is it that point where you all are sitting in the river together and all of a sudden somebody says, "Did I actually say that?" The other one goes, No. And then it just falls back to silence again.
Nice.
That would be me. Oh god, I'm a smoking pot pilot.
All right, let's see. So the commander is going to go into the workshop. And yet again, they know exactly what everyone else is doing all the time. They know that the engineer is still going to be up in the satellite room because they've got important things they've got to deal with and communicate with Earth about, and their report will take quite a bit of time. And while they're up there, the commander goes onto their side of the workshop and starts using their tools and is doing a lot of wrenching and cutting with lasers that Ellie has optimized to cut metals that are harder, stronger than anything would be able to on Earth or following the regulations. And strange smoke seems to be rising from something that is missing pieces and has dust falling out of it as the commander hits it with some hammers, breaks one of Ellie's favorite sonic screwdrivers, and generally makes their mess even messier, and then walks away with something in their hands.
Okay, so let's move the sun. We're gonna move Dr. Ionesco into the lab. Just because somehow I keep wanting to do strange things. So, the crystallarium has actually been coming along rather well in the lab. There are a lot of different kinds of crystals have been growing, and he's kind of been putting them to different uses. And he's doing an experiment today to see if he can actually use them in transmissions. Because it's, sort of crystal radio set type deal. Which I'm saying, given the technology that is currently being used, is different and perhaps is not the sort of thing that they normally will account for. But he'll sort of be putting it together, and he's sort of twisting around. He's like, and he seems to get like it's not a signal per se, but it's more of a thing where it's like coming up, and he's like, well, then I just have to build another one and then see if they can talk to each other, I suppose. But as he's listening, there is this like, and he's like, the hell? And he picks up what sounds like someone smashing things in the workshop. And he's listening for a minute. He's like, is that? It's not Mew, is it? And how the hell am I? And then he stops speaking out loud because he suddenly realizes how it is that he's hearing this. He unplugs it and he's like, just sort of sits back and he's like,
I'm sorry.
What?
He just thinks, they're gonna love this. They're gonna love this. And they're going to hate it. And that's the scene.
So many questions. I think that Ellie is going to go. Well, I think the doctor is going to go to the field lab, and I think Ellie is going to insist on driving him there.
Okay, let me go ahead and pull that up there.
And I think Ellie is real quiet all the way to the lab, and just kind of makes pleasantries, which is a little weird because she's been pretty sociable since y'all got up here.
Yeah.
And when you get to the lab, she starts kind of going through cupboards. And this is science research equipment, but she's just like going through and kind of looking at everything, flipping through the catalogs, and not saying anything to the doctor. Would the doctor say anything or just let her continue going where she's going?
Yeah, the doctor, I feel this guy is trouble keeping his mouth shut. So in terms, I mean, in terms when he sees something like when he sees someone behaving strangely, that kind of thing. So it's like, you think the Martians left something for us?
I'm just making sure that there's nothing that got allocated to the field lab that might be better in the workshop. She's like flipping through. She pulls out a bag of like sort of rubber tubing that you would use for moving fluids from one poison to the other. She tosses it on the counter. Do you need that? Are you sure you need that? Do you have plans for that?
He looks at the rubber tubing. He's like, yes, but this isn't the one that I ordered. That's strange.
So then you don't need that. If you don't need it, could you put it in the pile to my left?
Okay.
She just keeps going through. She says, look, I don't know what your motivation was for coming on this thing, but let me tell you, I have 1 year to be able to work without people breathing down my neck, trying to write things about my work before I'm ready to write things about my work. 1 year that I get to just make what I want to make and be left on my own to make it. And they can say that I'm here to do whatever it is that I'm here to do. But I mean, let's be honest. We're on this mission because we're smart and we're capable. And we could do all that nonsense in 1/3 the time that they need. So if you don't need this for the things that you're doing on the side, I need these for the things I'm doing on the side.
Yeah. And he sort of sits back as or doesn't sit back, but he sort of watches as you're doing that, and he's just sort of shaking his head slightly. And he says, he sort of is looking around for a second, just sort of as you're looking through things. And kind of is after he sort of does a strange sort of thing where he walks around the room because he's looking for bugs. And as he sort of comes over and he's like, well, actually, are we inside an environment? Have we got our helmets off, or are we in our suits?
I think we would have our helmets off because we're inside the lab.
Okay. He kind of sort of leans over. He says, I'm supposed to disagree here somehow, but I'll say, well, part of it, so he'll start out by saying, let me know if you find anything that really shouldn't be here.
She stops and she just kind of looks back. Something that really shouldn't be here. Anything in particular?
Well, it's hard to know what to look for, really. But and again, because in his head he's not really sure he's found, because he doesn't he's not he hasn't not sure he's found any he hasn't seen any bugs. He doesn't know they're not here. So he kind of will say anything that well, I think your idea has merit, and so. If there's something that you happen to locate and you want, that should not belong, I think I'd like to know. Because it seems clearly something is troubling you a lot about the completion of the mission here and efficiency, and so if it is something that is going to pose a threat, then we need to tackle it, yes?
I mean, do we? I mean, I guess we do, but realistically, the success or the failure of this mission is not a reflection on us.
I suppose
Are you
so.
saying you're here for the mission, Doctor?
Of course, we're all for the mission, I suppose. He says, just sort of looking around, but I'm here for my granddaughter more than anything else, I suppose. Also, my children, because eventually they're going to. Their generation, my granddaughters in particular, Claudio's generation, she's going to need. They're going to need more places to live. Yeah, that's at least what we're supposed to be doing. He says, and he doesn't say it accusingly, but he has this kind of a sad look in his eyes when he says it.
She climbs up. She just sits on the counter. And she goes, first of all, if you're looking for bugs, of course they're listening to everything we're saying. You just have to be transparent and accept it. And second of all, you know that that's completely ridiculous. And there is absolutely no way that this is going to be a livable place for humans. I love that you care about the future of humanity, but humanity is inherently doomed. There is nothing that we can possibly do except for listen to the best music we can, dance as much as we can, and maybe do whatever it is that makes us happy along the way. Me, it's inventing things. She goes back, she starts digging in the things. She goes, I'm sure if a doctor needs to believe that he can save humanity because that's why he spent all this time reading those books, and that makes you feel better, then that's fine. She just keeps digging.
He just sort of stares at her. He's digging, and he's sort of shakes his head, and he takes out the crystal radio set that he's built for this place, and he puts it in place where it's because it was supposed to be here, because they're going to communicate between the field lab and the lab back at the base, and I think he's gonna most of the rest of this is going to be in silence.
Okay.
In slight paranoid silence.
And then I'm gonna roll my die.
Yeah.
Yes. And I got a 5, which is sickness.
Ah, excellent.
And I think that as we're going through, as she's digging through all of these things, she's tossing stuff up onto the counter. Into kind of sets of useful to me, useful to the doctor to maybe bring back. And she sees a set of slides and she tosses them up onto the counter and you hear one of them crack.
And he's just sort of immediately, oh shit. I was going to immediately call out, masks!
And she looks around and kind of reaches for the mask and gets it on her face. And I think she looks at you, and for the first time, you see her look remotely like she cares about something. And she looks at the sample and she reads it. And she looks up, and you can hear muffled through the mask, "I've never even heard of this. Have you?"
Once.
And I think that's the scene.
Oh my god!
Nice happy scene.
Oh my god!
Oh, wonderful.
Everything seems to be going to hell, but they were laughing.
Well, I'm now in the we're all going to die camp, but
Oh, okay. Automatics, let it breathe again. Oh my god. I should be thinking what the hell I do next. I think I'm gonna go into the recreation area, and I think Martin's been looking at taking kind of observations of people as they go by throughout the days, and having noticed that the doctor often seems to be looking at I would say he probably has a picture of his granddaughter or something like that.
Yeah.
Which I guess he often looks at. So the only reason that he might be a little depressed at missing spending time with his granddaughter, and hoping that as long as his mission goes all according to plan, that he can get the doctor back home to his darling granddaughter, knowing that he's probably a little depressed that he is here and she is there, and he is missing her.
I will agree. Depression has just set in for various reasons.
Here we go.
Cool. There's a very important question in the chat that I feel like should be answered before I do my next move. But does anybody want to?
I think
address
that. I think it's something that depending on when you want to set this move, if you would like to set it at a time after we have returned to base, then that's that probably has come out at this point.
All right. So the commander is going to go to the lab and will have made sure that both the doctor and the engineer are locked into quarantine. And as an experiment, the commander is going to see how you deal with this strange space disease in quarantine without killing all of the rest of us. You have access to all of your tools and the ability to run tests utilizing the station computer, but do not have equipment or tools for escaping quarantine.
Works for me. Do you want to describe the results of the experiment, or shall we just see what happens next?
I was going to let you do that on your turn, since your turn's next.
All right, let's do that. The time passes. So the doctor is physically in the lab, but I'm going to move my token into the workshop so that I can answer how I fix what's broken. To specify. So it has a bunch of stuff brought in from the lab. Dr. Ionesco is so we've been quarantined for a little while, and the thing is, there was ultimately a they were able to find a way to put off the plague, but that happened on the moon. They weren't sure if it was a permanent cure, though. So Dr. Ionesco now has to attempt to devise one, or they're going to have to, or he and Ellie are going to have to stay on Mars. So I think. So I think that he comes up with something that seems to work, just based in part on the work that he had done previously. And it seems as though I feel as though Ellie might have been hit with it a little harder because she was right there breaking the slide. So I think that he finds something that does burn it out of their systems. He kind of has to go kind of ass to elbow to figure it out. It's not. It's like it involves using the treatment that they had, but then sort of on top of that, they have to just get it fleshed out, and so they spend a few very uncomfortable days, and are both very weak afterward. And as a result, the mission has lost some time. Because two of its crew members have been out for like a month, basically, trying to, as they get all this virus dealt with. They get to the point that they should be safe to once again be out and about. They do flush the virus from their systems, but that is like a whole month that. They're not getting other things done that are perhaps rather helpful to the mission. But they do have a lot more data about how this plague functions on Mars. And I guess that'll be my turn. So they're safe, but they're also not in as good a situation as they were in.
Okay. So let's see. Take Ellie. I imagine she's not going out on the rover this time. I think she'll go to the agricultural dome. I think she's still pretty sick. She's better, but like the wear on her system is still a lot. And so she's spending a lot of time sort of resting in the room with the plants in it and feeling a little bit more about home. And she starts to think back to the conversations that she had when she was getting ready to go, and sort of the things that had preempted that, and her lack of desire to settle into the kind of family-based domestic living that most of her friends had sort of migrated into. That, she kind of remembers this place where she had been part of this really great, ecstatic, fun, queer community that was like this huge place to blow off steam when she wasn't just working her ass off in the workshop all the time. And slowly but surely, people sort of settled down, and she never wanted to settle down. And she remembers her going away party and standing in this very nice room that they had all rented out for this kind of catered party, and everybody's drinking white wine and hanging out. And she went and said kind of her greetings to everybody, and everybody talked about their kids and the future. And she realized that she didn't believe in a future, that all she'd ever believed in the now was in the now, and everybody else had moved on. And she just kind of is sitting in this agriculture dome thinking about everybody's belief in the future and how her lack of belief just distances her from everyone. And that's my turn.
So at this point, Martin's going to go for the rover, and seeing how much down Ellie's been, they're going to go to over to the ice field with the lovely engineer. And I'm going to be going. Right, because he's driving. He's clearly being obviously the physical strength behind the operation, as Ellie's still being still quite weak. But all this, just going to the ice field and saying, have you made it out here before?
To the ice fields. Now this is my first time out here. It's kind of beautiful.
Yes, and the way the light sparkles off the ice is quite beautiful to behold.
Yeah.
As has been your incredible work on this ship and the systems. It's something I knew I needed to thank you in person for that.
You don't need to thank me. It's what I like to do.
Yes.
Keeps me sane.
Keeps you sane, allows me to help keep you all safe. The controls are perfectly balanced. Previous engineers had always had a little, was jog to the left or the right, a tiny touch. Enough I could adapt to, no problem. But for yours, perfect pitching of all the implements. So the work you have done makes my job considerably easier.
I'm glad. Thanks for being a decent pilot. I feel like most of the time we engineers have to engineer these systems in to let pilots fuck up. But since you don't fuck up, I just pull those systems out and it just works better overall. I mean, I guess unless you fuck up, in which case, but it'll be fine.
Yes. Well, with my sister as well is also quite an admirer of yours and of your work. And of course, my personal favorite is the simulation system that you had designed that allowed me to practice on the way here.
Yeah.
Essential. So, thanks. And for that little something to soothe, then you produced the pot. A little medicinal.
Oh yeah, thanks. She smokes a little and it phases her not at all. She just
quite a potent batch as well, so impressive. I think this is the point where I will make the roll. How we had everyone smoking pot. Right. I'm so glad that was not a 5. It being a 1. Oh yeah. The work with the work Man's doing alone. Probably continue just double checking all the drive systems on the rover, making sure everything pilots well, easy to pilot even for those who are not as highly trained and qualified at him with that, and just doing what he can to ensure the safety of others from what he can do. I think that's my scene.
The commander is going to go to the return shuttle. And as they walk in, they're holding a small device in their hand. They walk over to the main computer board, twist some screws, pull some levers, a hatch pops open, and they shove what is in their hand into a messy tangle of wires that suddenly stops glowing green and starts glowing red. They push a couple of buttons on a control panel. They reach in and remove the device that they had inserted. The lights stay red, and they close the panel and seal it back up.
Okay. It's the next month. And I am now going to probably dive headfirst into potential oblivion, but let's see how this plays out. I'm going to get in the rover and ask the commander to come with me.
Yes.
And we're gonna go to the dunes and have an honest conversation. Hang on just a second while I set that up there. Here we go. All right. Yeah. Sorry. Just gotta transition. There we go. Okay. All right. You noticed before we get into the rover that the doctor was in the rover for some time before he said he asked you to come out and said he was ready to go. So he's come out riding up to the dunes, and we pull to a stop, and he's like, "All right, we should be good. Mew, I gotta talk to you about something."
Well, I'm always here to listen. I am your commander, and I am here to help you accomplish our mission in any way, shape, or form that my help might be necessary. It is yours.
Oh, well, that's good, because I would like to know if you have any idea what the hell this is about. And out of his pocket, he takes the handful of bugs that he's painstakingly taken out and deactivated from the rover.
Ah, good. So you have found them.
Yeah, they're all the ones that were in here. Yeah, I swept the whole thing nose to tail.
Excellent. Put them back. Those are the ones that I left behind. Those are the ones that I know how to hack. Those are the ones that keep us safe, so that they don't know that they're all gone.
So, you're aware that, Alright. Before I put them back, you're aware that they're not, they're not government. You remember, I have not been, you remember what my daughter Marina does for a living. That's why I don't talk about her to anybody. I only talk about Claudia because Marina's in intelligence and I can't talk about it.
Yes, I'm I'm well aware of your family. After all you did to save mine, how could I not be curious about yours?
Well, she asked me to keep an eye on some things while I was here. And we think that there is interference. And this is overarching evidence. This is crazy evidence that that's happening. There are bugs everywhere in all the places.
Yes, it's very disconcerting. Now, you know that the corporation that sent us has enemies, do you not?
Of course. But, are they up here too?
Of course they are, my friend. They're everywhere. Well, maybe not one place. Gonna have to see about that, though. But, back to the point. Yes. They are trying to sabotage our mission. They don't want us to fully succeed in the orders that I have received from upper command that I haven't really informed all of you about. Now, first, I must know, are you a good company man?
I am a doctor first, before anything else. That's for the most part all I am. I am a doctor, I am a parent. This is what I do.
So love of life brought you here. That and that oath that you doctors all take about hippos.
Yes, that'd be the one.
Excellent. Well then, I may let you in on a little secret. I don't plan on following the secret orders that I received from the corporation. That will negatively impact more life than you could possibly imagine. I can't tell you much right now, but when the time comes, you will have to make a decision. I hope you will be on my side at that time.
You know, this is causing trouble for a lot of the for the others as well. Ellie was, before we got sick, Ellie was losing her mind over something. This is, I think it had something to do with the inventory. Things are not as they're supposed to be. And
yes, I know a bit of what you speak of. Ellie confided in me, surreptitiously, but I'm pretty sure I got the gist. That we were not given the equipment necessary to actually return home. They gave us enough to make it look like, yeah, if you just glanced over the inventory, we'd totally be able to do it. All of the machines were labeled as functioning. However, only one of us was supposed to ever return from this mission, and it wasn't any of you. So, I would say that should you find a place where you feel you are comfortable doing so, have another talk with our wonderful and famous engineer. Maybe her messy little brain can get some of the input that it needs to be put to rest on that same day when you will have to make a choice. And they will choose to join you as well.
I'm not entirely sure what you want to do, but I'll figure it out, I suppose. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. Things were as hellish as it was. Things were a lot easier back on Luna, you know?
Yes, Luna. Indeed. The systems were in place to deal with, well, I say in place, deal with. These are measurements of preparedness. But yes, dealing with an outbreak of that scale, it was containable. What's going on here is much larger. I know it's hard for you to trust me completely, but I chose you for a reason. There's a reason you're here on this planet, especially after what you saw during the plague.
Yeah.
I will let you know more when I can.
All right. Well, if it helps, I've got I've worked out a system of communicating that's outside of the normal channels. It's that this thing I've been growing in the lab.
I wondered what that was. So pretty.
Yeah.
Sparkly.
Yeah, they're parts of a radio, basically. And we've got one at the field lab. I've got one at we got one at the lab now, and so it was going to. It's part of our regular manifest of things, but maybe they didn't think it was going to be too big a deal because of what it was. But that won't be anything that they can pick up if we use it outside of wherever they've got these damn things.
Well, we might have to make a gathering of it.
Perhaps.
I'm not sure if we should trust Simmons, but the rest of us sounds like we need to have a conversation.
I think he's a good boy. He's a little restless because of what's going. That he's mostly useful on the way here and on the way back, but I don't know. All right, well, I'll. I am going to have to. I need to, at some point, tell Marina something about this. They're going to need to know, especially if something's going to go haywire and they can do something down there.
They can't do anything from Earth. They can't help us here, I promise you. If we tell them about the bugging that is going on from the rival corporation, I guarantee you that corporation has another mission landing on Mars. They're supposed to land on the other side of the planet. It doesn't mean they have to. They'll be here in 3.5 months.
Oh, that's wonderful. All right, well, this will be very interesting, I suppose. All right, I'll hold off for Namia, but this is... Also, are you doing all right? Because I got to say, there was something I overheard a little bit of when I was messing around with it. It can pick up some of their signals. You're probably stressing out in the workshop something?
I've been honest with you. Just say what you mean.
I heard you dashing around breaking things, that kind of thing.
What you call breaking, I say creation through destruction. Sometimes you have to break something to make something. And I tell ya, I'm gonna make something out of this. This whole mess. This whole twisted thing that we're caught up in. I know you don't have much reason, except for that I've told you I know about the bugs. I've told you what I know about the other corporation and their plans to perhaps interfere with us. Like I said, there's still key details I'm working out.
All right. I trust you. We have always worked well together, so I am on your side here, but I am going to check to make sure that we're not having any bad reactions with your medications, okay?
Yes, please. You're a doctor. That's what you do.
Yes, at least among other things, it seems damn lately. I think I'm going to roll now. 3, and then he mutters and trails off, and they just sit there in silence, staring out at the dunes. And he just sort of sits there, just shaking his head, thinking, we're screwed so many ways at this point. There is no way out. And I can't tell anybody. And I feel like my daughter could help us here, but I won't. I can't tell her. So I just keep feeding her the usual numbers that I've been feeding her. Just as that, and we'll try to figure out what the hell is going on and see if eventually. I wonder how much time he thinks we're going to have to give Ellie to be able to create another spaceship out of a rubber band and a string. And that'll be my turn.
Okay. I think because I'm sort of curious as a player, I think that I'm gonna drag the pilot out to the derelict rover, where Ellie has been picking up more supplies. And it's weird because none of those supplies are really showing up in the workshop. So who knows? But she's pretty well stripping down this rover at this point to just sort of bare bones. So as you're out there working together, she turns to Martin and is like, "Can you believe that we're, 2/3 of the way through this whole thing?"
No, it's time has been passing much more swiftly than I thought. I'm glad you are seem to be feeling much better.
That's yeah. It's body's still a little bit not what it used to be, but I'm up to 5 push-ups a day again. It's not so bad. So I just feel like in the time arc you've got sort of the first third you're figuring out why you're there, and the second third you're doing what you plan to be doing, and the third third you're supposed to be wrapping that up. So do you feel like you've accomplished whatever it is you wanted to do while you were here?
I feel like I'll have accomplished what I've been needing to do when we were back safely on Earth. In truth.
Are you saying you had no plans, no nothing you wanted to get done the whole year that you're just waiting to fly the ship again?
Well, I'm a pilot. That's my nature. My nature is to fly. Of course, I cannot fly when the true brains of the operation, such as yourself, are needing to focus their incredible mental powers on their work.
Well, all right, Martin. But I gotta say, in my professional opinion, that sure sounds like a heap of bullshit. I can't imagine spending a whole year not wanting to do anything. How many people get to go to Mars? You got a whole year on Mars and you didn't have a bucket list?
Oh, I think most of the itinerary on my bucket list has already been filled.
Huh. All right. She keeps stripping down the rover. And thankfully rolls a 4.
More storms!
And what she takes from the rover is a set of small shielding devices that are used for radiation shielding. But they're much smaller than the ones that we generally have to shield the pod. And that's my turn.
Okay, so my turn. This just what the hell? This is totally taking quite the turn that I did not see coming. And from the start of this. So I'm gonna go to the satellite. And I'm thinking of I'll think of a bit of a read through of my my sister's response. Response to the message, and going that the life without you having been there has been difficult. The fact that you're not back on Earth with me is has realised that I miss our little sibling rivalries. Of as protocol has dictated, they have been spending time with Miss Nolasco, the doctor's daughter, and of course updating on what's needed from our perspective. And I think I'm there. I am loving
All right. Let's see. I'm gonna go into the galley and talk about Mukau's daily routine. At this point, life at the station has gotten rather repetitive for everyone. They wake up, they eat some nutrient paste, they take a sun bath because they're getting all kinds of wrong radiation here. Then they march over to the lab to get the progress report on the experiments. Then they go over to the workshop to get the progress report on all the machines that need upkeep, how the agricultural dome is managing with just the solar panels, whether or not the rover has been getting its monthly repairs on schedule, how's the fueling going on the shuttle. And then after all of that corporate bureaucracy is done and out of the way, there's not much for the commander to do. So they exercise. They have a tablet in front of them whenever they exercise. They never exercise in front of anyone. But if you were there, you'd see a giant smile on their face and millions of cat videos. Every day, another cat video, more laughter. If you were in the room, or even in the next room and you weren't on Mars, living inside sealed bubbles, you would hear the commander laugh a lot. And then they have their nutrient paste for dinner. And they go back to the agricultural dome to spend some time in the little forest park space before going to bed.
Neat. Okay. Now we're getting closer. I figure we've got, including this one, we've got 3 more turns, then of course it ends, which usually we just end it when we hit that. So if we're all good, if we're all okay to keep progressing at this rate, I think we'll be good. I am going to go. Yeah, the doctor, fed up at a lot of things, wanders out to the agricultural dome. Just trying to get some peace and quiet and just sort of think for a while and occupy his time with things that he thought he'd be doing other things with. And he goes back to as he's sort of wandering through the woods that have been growing up in the agricultural dome. He thinks back to his time on some of his time on Earth, back when he thinks back to when Claudia was born, and his son Nikolai was still alive. He was fairly well known at that point, and so there were like as a musician, so there were a crap load of photographers and stuff outside. But he was there basically telling them to piss off, and then he got to he saw he held he held Marina's hand as she was giving birth, and afterward he not long after the birth happened, he got to hold Claudia for the first time, and that was, he felt like the pinnacle of everything for him. He just feels a lot of regret at the things that happened afterward, because it was so soon after that things started cascading and he got assigned to the moon, and it just will never be like that again. And that is something that he's trying to accept at this point, because he can no longer think of anything the way it used to be. And that's that.
Okay. So we still have 2 more months and then we launch?
Yeah, so we've got this including this month, we have 3.
Cool. Let's go to Ellie's cabin. I feel like Ellie has been still looking like she just never really physically recovered from the sickness all the way, but probably more likely just the efficiency of the cure. And so we start by seeing her coming down the hallway, and she's kind of picking her way along, looking a little bit frail and a little bit tired after a pretty, normal 8 to 10 hour work day. And then she opens the door to her cabin and closes it behind her. And then you see like her whole body straighten up, and she kind of relaxes a little bit, and she goes around and moves some furniture around so that it's blocking where she already knows the cameras are and the light. And then she flips over the bottom of her bed and she starts soldering together these radiation shields, where she's obviously modifying a suit for long-term over Martian travel in her own. And she basically continues to work on this suit and improving the suit for well into the night, and then tucks it all back, folds it away, puts the little piece of tape to make sure that it's not disturbed, so she can see if it's been messed with, climbs into bed for her 3 to 4 hours of sleep so she can look effectively sick tomorrow when she gets up to go to work.
Oh my god. Okay. Is this now a way? We'll just try to one up each other at this point. Okay. So I gotta go to the agricultural dome, and remembering back on Earth, the whole having a twin sister, having trained, spent pretty much the entire life with her. They've been competing their entire life into Air Force and piloting together, going to every training, somehow managing to keep back together, including being recruited by the intelligence services together. Just remembering the first interview there, everything was going well with that, and there were some bits where his sister was slightly better, some bits where he was slightly better, but they were just pretty damn evenly matched. I'm just thinking, wishing she was here. That would be my scene.
Whew. Nice. Okay. The commander is going to go on the rover to the ice field with I think at this point the doctor.
Oh my god. Alright. Move that.
So
Okay.
we go out in the rover and get to the ice fields, and we've taken some sampling equipment and a change of batteries for the station that sets up there to gather samples and do various mechanical things, communicating with satellites, sending information back to Earth and the moon. We are going to be working on that for a while and have some time to talk. And the Commander Moo will turn to the good doctor and say, well, we've been here for quite some time, and things have gotten rather interesting, I'm sure you'll agree. But, while we haven't worked too closely together on many of your experiments, or keeping the station running, or anything like that, I think that we've made a bit of a connection. And there's some work that I'd like you to do with me here. What if I was to tell you that just 13 kilometers from this very spot, about 125 meters deep, there is another ship.
Ordinarily, I would ask what you've been taking, but of course I know what you've been taking because I've been monitoring it, so, when the hell did they have time to get another ship up here?
Oh, that's a good one. Sorry. Oh, I forget sometimes the time scales that people like you work on. Yes. No. It's not a corporate ship. This is far more extravagant than anything. Well, I shouldn't make assumptions, but I think it's probably pretty out there compared to what you're used to. I need to get to that ship, and I'd like your help.
Sure, why the hell not?
I hoped you'd say that. I'm so glad to hear it. Now, I've scrambled the receivers at this station that we're on, and we have exactly 7.23 hours to set up this mass spectrometer / mold digging / current utilizing water vaporizer that I've
Alright.
cobbled together.
Okay. Well, that I think I can do.
Excellent.
720. That's like shaving. It'll be cutting it a little close, but I think I can get it together.
Wonderful. Well, yes. I've also made sure that the rover will be reporting its position is here. So let's move on and set everything up 13 kilometers away. And now I'll roll a dice. Nice. As we are setting up the machine that will dig down to this spaceship, the commander slips on the ice, and the laser torch that they were wielding flashes across their leg, essentially severing it below the kneecap. And it was a laser, so they're not gonna bleed out,
Yeah.
but they're on a time schedule. They've lost half a limb, and the doctor is freaking out. And Commander Moo says, "Do the work. I can take care of this myself." And grabs another laser and starts cauterizing the wounds and fashioning themselves a makeshift stub peg leg out of various bits and bobs from the rover. And just as you've put the finishing touches and you go to wipe your brow, not realizing that you can't because your helmet's in the goddamn way, the commander stands up, one leg firmly planted on the ground, one peg firmly embedded in the ice. And they smile, and over the intercom you hear, "Right on time. Let's head back." And you all head back to space.
You know, this was not how I imagined my day going when I got up this morning. Nice. Okay. Getting closer to launch. All right. Let's see. Next to last thing. All right, so I haven't been into the cabin yet, so I'm going to go to the cabin. Where I describe my personal space. And Dr. Ionesco has essentially, at this point, he's very close to getting to the last of the vodka. He's managed to make it last. He knew exactly how much he needed for a 1-year stay on Mars. And so his gravest hope is that they can return to Earth because he's running out of vodka. And so he sits there sort of lightly drinking it. And it's he looks up kind of at he's sort of I guess he's got like a little sort of thing on the wall where he can flip his pictures and what have you that he's been doing. And after he begins looking at pictures of Claudia, and then he finally allows himself to look at pictures of Marina and Nikolai. And he's just sort of shaking his head as he does so. And really, he just sort of stands up, he walks over, and focuses more specifically on Marina. So, my darling, please make coming back worth it. Please. please, I am counting on you to know that we should be coming back. He shakes his head and he's like, you're always the most clever of it. Just hope it did not come back to bite you. Good night, darling. And he kisses and he goes to bed. And that's my move.
Okay. I'm going to move to the galley. For a gathering. And I think it's Sunday night dinner, and everybody's come together. And as the year has turned towards the end, the sort of convivial once a week party atmosphere that we've had has sort of died down to being a little bit more terse and quiet, as everybody doesn't trust each other. And everyone shows up and everything's set up, but Ellie is not present in the room. And everybody kind of starts to eat, figuring that she'll get there eventually. And she kind of bursts through the doors with all of this stuff in her arms. And she walks up to the table and sort of like bumps the table with a leg to get everybody's attention. Says, sick of this bullshit. I don't have time for it. Look, all of us know that something is very, very wrong. If I'm the only person who's figured it out, that ship is not taking us home. It is not happening. That return shuttle is a return shuttle. Now, I'm sure I could make that ship so that it's going to take all of us home. But the fact of the matter is that if somebody doesn't want us to go home, we're not going home. So, I don't know who's on what side. I don't care who's on what side. What I do know is that I'm on the side of not dying, and that I'm on the side of not living on Mars by myself. So, she starts throwing suits, like the regular outside suits, at each of you. So, suit for you, and a suit for you, and a suit for you, and a suit for me. Keep your suit safe. It will let you last outside for up to 2 weeks until you find shelter. Should you happen to be with an engineer, that might be enough time to build shelter. Should you not, you might be fucked. But I'm just saying, keep it safe, because one of you motherfuckers is trying to kill us all, and I don't know who it is. Sits down, she eats her knitter. That's my scene.
I've got to wait for yourself to that. What the hell do I do now? Oh my god.
Well, now is when you kill everybody, right? No.
Killing everyone, come on. I think it's that's the command. I'm gonna go to the personal space and making sure I install this finely crafted suit within easy access. Going through my very militaristicized clean space, but also with its speech and thinking, yeah, things are not going according to plan. There's been a very well concealed panel that gets opened up, and a very small but powerful firearm is removed and holstered in a cleverly concealed holster. At this point, thinking, this is not how it's supposed to go. No. I need some protection. And I think that'll be the end of the scene.
You know, I was kidding when I said you should kill us.
Oh, good. This is going very well. Peachy keen. The commander's going to go up to the satellite room. Blinking on the screen is a message flashing vibrantly red. It says confidential. Commander Moo Cow's eyes only. Clearance THC. They open up this classified document, and there's a very short, concise message from the corporation saying there was a tragic accident at the lunar colony. A whole section was depressurized. Somehow, there were no human casualties, but we are sad to report we cannot find your cats. Scene.
All right, here we go. Part of me wants to do one more rover scene, but I think I think it's going to go in circles if I try to do that. So I think what I'm going to do is go down here. As he's preparing to, he's trying to get things ready to leave. He's not sure how. He's now sitting in the return shuttle, looking around at all the things. He's like, "Yep, no, this isn't going to work." But he's going to leave something behind. Whether he ends up joining it or not, we'll find out, I guess, in a moment. But he takes the hypo spray that he had shrink wrapped that he brought with him as sort of a trophy, and he buries it. He wants to leave it on Mars because he's not... It's not just that he's not quite the same person anymore, but it's also that he thinks that that enough damage has been done, and with everything that's going on, he doesn't want another reminder of the kind of, not downward spiral, but just the isolation that started happening with him from the moon onward. And he thinks it's time to change things up again. So if he makes it out, he's going to go back, not to the moon, but to Earth. Because he has spent enough time away from his family. And he needs to set aside the dedicated, depressed physician and just be a granddad, while there is still time for him to be one. And that is my scene.
I'm going to move to the satellite. I'm going to send a report to Earth. And basically, I think that at this point, our stuff is set up to send reports directly back to Earth. But Ellie, being Ellie, kind of messes with the equipment a little bit so that she can send information to her ex. And she basically just says, So I almost feel like this would be better if it were, just a letter I could write you. But this is all I got. And my hope, the way that I've sent this, is it's just going to show up on your phone and you're going to hear it like a voicemail. So congratulations on being the first person to get a voicemail from Mars. Don't say I never gave you nothing. I guess on that note, I feel like I spent most of the time that we were together and the time that we were breaking up saying that you gave me nothing. Using my fame and my talents to showcase what I gave you. I never really fit in with you and your friends and the world that you wanted me to live in. But the fact is that you gave me a world to live in. Being this far away, I realized that that was a lot to give a person. And as much as I always just wanted to be me in my work, it doesn't really work if it's not framed inside a place to belong. I see on the calendar that I'm going home soon. And, well, you know my relationship with calendars, which is not good. And I just wanted you to know that when I get home, it'll be different. And if I don't get home, it was different anyway. And that's my scene.
Well, okay. God damn, this is the point where this is hard. Oh, damn it. Ooh, what are we gonna do now? What are we gonna do now? I'm gonna go to the lab and what's been keeping me going over this over most of this past year, just quietly in the shadows, watching over each and every one, having read even the confidential messages. So quite saddened about the commander's cats. Thinking, it was having the occasional smoking. The pot which has grown stronger than anything he seems to have had on Earth. So that's that for him. That's been something that's been keeping him going. But I mean that all this has been just temporary. Well, hopefully temporary. Concerned that they will not return home with all these temporary measures to keep himself occupied, keep himself going, will need to become the permanent solution, which now he wants. And I think that's where I'll end.
All right. The commander is going to make their way to the galley, where they call together a gathering of their fellow Martians at this point. As you all gather, Moo is just pacing back and forth at the head of the table, inviting you to sit. I feel like Ellie probably walks in last, throwing themselves into a chair with a huff, very frustrated. And the commander finally turns to you all and says, Well, thanks to our genius engineer, you all know by now that we were never supposed to make it home. Our return shuttle was pre-programmed to explode as soon as we left the gravity well of Mars itself. I have taken the liberty of inserting an autopilot program that will send our return shuttle to that deathly end. I'm not going down like that. Now, I don't know about you, but I've been screwed over by corporations and politics my whole life. I'm sick of it. But I've found that unlike many humans who put on false facades as if they're trying to help you when really they're just trying to drag you down, or better yet, get you killed. There are these wonderful creatures. You may know them as cats. They are far more advanced species than you may realize. Yes. They are actually using us through very fine mind control. They're trying to help the human population, the human species as a whole, become better than the dirty apes that they found when they arrived on the planet. It's been hard work. They thought that reaching the stars would unite us, give us a sense of global purpose. Let us know that we were one with the cosmos. Yet, here we are digging into a new planet, doing the same things over and over again. Why, we're supposed to be leaving in 2 days. Leaving to our death. Another ship, sent from a rival corporation, is to arrive tomorrow. They don't want us to leave. They want to hijack us. They think that the experiments that the doctor has been running in the lab will benefit their corporation. The doctor and I, however, have been working on a little project in the ice fields. We have uncovered one of the cat's original spaceships. They have a waypoint on Europa. If we power up the ship and leave today, we could be at Europa within 2 weeks, whereupon we can get on a ship and go practically anywhere we want in the known universe. You can study technologies you cannot imagine. Or maybe you have. I've seen some of your work. And you, those diseases that have caused so much devastation, all that dedication, all that effort just to have patients die, have your life's work laugh and spit in your face. Imagine what you could do with a whole galaxy full of botanicals and creatures just trying to help each other out, figure out how to conquer disease and let sentient creatures bloom across this magnificent cosmos. And you think you've flown. Wait until you've been in a cat shuttle, flying at G's that would break your body. And yet, you come out feeling elated, alive, more than you could ever have imagined. We can do this, friends. I don't know if we can trust you, Simmons, but I couldn't not give you this chance. So, who's with me? Who's going to Europa?
I think maybe that's where it ends.
I think we need a response scene here.
Oh, you think
I think we can properly close this off.
You can do little codas, sure. Yeah, you can see what happens. That's just such a perfect way to end it. So, yeah, no. If you want to say what your character does, I in response, I think that would be fine. Sure.
Do we want to do a round of epilogue response?
Sure. I'll go ahead and start. Since same order. So the doctor was very in support of everything the commander was doing, but this is the first he had heard about the thing with the cats. So there is something buried under the ice. And he thinks that that's going to get everyone out, that's sure. But exploring the galaxy is a young person's game. And so what the doctor volunteers to do is to stay behind and distract and hold off the enemy corporation for as long as he can to let the others get away. Because, they may be going wherever they're going. They're actually, he's half convinced, if they want to go, they should go, but that whatever it is that's buried under the ice might blow up halfway, before they even get out of the atmosphere. Hard to know. He just doesn't know that he can accept this tale about the cats. He does, I think, maybe have an inkling that the commander's cats might have passed away recently, and that might have sent them over the edge. So, yeah, he's gonna help them as much as he can from Mars, and maybe he'll get lucky and figure out when the other corporation lands, he'll figure out a way to talk them into taking him back to Earth. But yeah, he'll let them take whatever research stuff they need, but or rather let the commander take whatever stuff they don't want to fall into the enemy hands. But yeah, he's kind of done, so he will try to help the others who do whatever they want to do.
So I think Ellie has decided that the commander has lost their mind. But at this point, it's just like, I don't even know what's going on. And so she puts on her kind of modified suit and goes out there with everyone to where the ship has been pulled out in the ice fields. And she was walking through the ship, and she's like, she had this moment of, if it's a cat-sized ship, how's it gonna fit people-sized passengers? But she gets up to the ship, and it's a full-size ship. And she walks into the ship, and she pulls off her gloves and starts touching the different things inside, and the materials sort of respond. And she stops and she makes a note. And she looks a little bit more interested, and slowly but surely she gets up to the bridge of the ship, and she reaches into her bag and she pulls out that paper notebook, and there's a drawing of a design that looks exactly like a thing in the bridge of the ship. And she turns to the commander and says, I believe you might be insane, but I am along for the ride. We need a mask from the doctor. I am, in fact, allergic to cats. And that's my epilogue for Ellie.
Whereas Martin's been following quite quietly, seeing this and seeing that things are going against them. I imagine there's a table in this Progera that we got to, then pulls out pistol, lays it on the table and goes, Doctor, I am sure you are entirely unaware of this, but I am in intelligence services, as is your daughter. She is in fact my handler. She handles all my cases. I've been corresponding to her quite often about this. My objective up here was, my sister and I, we are the two greatest pilots that have flown in the skies. And so, and your daughter insisted that one of us had to be there to bring you home after your son. So that has been my mission, in truth, to bring you home. But this ship, I see the controls. So, Commander, if we would be able to take the doctor home, pick up my sister, and then I think we too shall travel with you for wherever this leads, after ensuring the doctor's safety.
The commander beams around at everyone. Ah, doctor, willing to sacrifice yourself, not only for us, but for the one that you love and must return to after so much loss in your life. I cannot deny you that. Good engineer. I may well be bonkers. Who am I to know? I would be bonkers. But it is fascinating technology, isn't it? And young Simmons, rather proud of you for fessing up like that. Take some balls. Yeah, let's take the doctor home. Give him a little show back on Earth. Make them acknowledge there's something else out there before we burn off to Europa and leave their asses in the dust.
Wow. Then the doctor thinks back, that's why he knew to ask for the vodka. You may have seen the thermos, but he didn't say what was in it. Granted, probably not that hard to figure out, but still. Nice.
Oh. Oh my god.
Awesome.
Oh.
Oh, that was good. That was great, folks.
Well done, everyone.
Life on Mars. There we have it. Well, I can't think of a better way to end this run of one-shots this month. With rocketing away from Mars in a celestial cat ship. Glorious, glorious. Well, I want to thank everyone so much for playing. This has been great. And we're going to go around and we're going to ask folks any final thoughts, what you thought of the game, and where people can find you online. Feel free to put any links and such that you may have that you want to plug in the chat. And we'll go opposite way from the way we've been going this whole time. So we are going to start with Connie.
Great. Hi again, y'all. I'm Connie O. I go by Connie Oh Yeah on Twitter, and I do commissions. I draw and stuff, and that's cool. So if you want me to draw anything for you, that'd be awesome. I'm also looking to get more involved in streaming. If anybody wants to play a game, streamed or not, hit me up. I'm always looking for new fun games to play. Life on Mars was cool. It was really awesome having no game master and just every single one of us being like, this is messed up. Let's make it more messed up. And I really like where it ended up. Feel good about it.
Excellent. And now let's go around to Philip.
Hello, I'm Philip. You can find me at Bakura on Twitter. This game has been utterly hilarious. I got the 2 pages that you've seen on the screen before you and gone, how the hell does this thing work? Well, I can't make up the tells it, but and just building a whole thing. Oh, this should be nice and simple, just a nice fun game. Then, what the hell is? Okay, okay, let's just build it. Okay. Yes, that's what the hell to. Okay, let's just go with it and just roll fully with it. Yeah, so this has been so much fun. Thank you all for being as awesome as you are. And you can find me generally on Mondays doing another game of Vampire the Masquerade, which we are tomorrow about to enter our third season of. And let's see if I can post a link to our YouTube channel in the Twitch chat. So, no, that's not working. Okay. I don't know how that works. Yeah, so you can find us at Blood on the Thames. Yeah, we are we're playing Vampire the Masquerade. So for those of you who do not know Vampire the Masquerade, it is a very rather horror game. So be advised on that. And yes, and my character has to kill 2 people at this point. You can find all our episodes on YouTube where you can catch up on them, and yeah, so that's what I've been doing.
Excellent, awesome. Yeah, I went ahead and posted it so that folks can get it.
Thank you.
Feel free to go click on that link in the chat if you want to go see Blood on the Thames. I have not had a chance to look at it yet, but I have seen snippets, and the snippets I've seen have been really cool. Very good role playing on that show. And let us go around to Janaya.
Hello, my name is Janaya, and I make art and play good games with nice people. And I do a lot of that on the internet. But next week I'm going to be at the National Ceramics Convention, so I guess if you're a huge ceramics nerd, you should come see my talk there. And if not, then I will be back the following week at my Twitch channel, but all of that will be on my Twitter account, which I linked into the chat here. That's the best place to find me. We're going to start doing a little bit more world building games on there, but mostly I do art streams and a little bit of ranting about the art world, which is always fun. I like to make contemporary art chatter accessible to the rest of the world and less exclusive and bullshitty. So join me for that. As far as the game, I really liked it. I've never played it before, but I bought the scroll version of Fall of Magic when I was up in Olympia, and I have been playing a lot of Fall of Magic. And this was kind of an interesting, more definite arc version. Like, I definitely can see the relation between the two games. And I love these kind of games and that nature of that endless yes and kind of storytelling. So yeah, it was really fun. Thank you for having me.
Yay! Thank you so much for coming. It is always awesome when you're on. So thank you so much. This was fun. I adored Ellie. Ellie was great. As was everyone else, actually. I adored all these characters. These were great characters. Well, once again, I am Jim Ryan. You can find me at OtherDoc on Twitch and Twitter. My website is jimyesthatjim.com, where you can find my Geek Observation podcast and links to my various other podcasts, audio dramas, writings, and such. I've got links down below here to my website, Twitter, YouTube channel, and the most recent short story that I've released. On Tuesday, I'm going to be over at Off the Table, playing in their Urban Shadows campaign. Things are getting terrible for my character, but that's how that game goes. That's over at off_the-table. And I'm in the second of the two. They have two concurrent campaigns that are both run on Tuesday night. I'm in the second one, for anyone who wants to go and check that out. On Wednesday night, we'll be having the finale of our short Dungeon World campaign, City of Pillars. They're finally going to make it to the City of Pillars. And perhaps deal with the Gorgon there. And that is something I'm very much looking forward to as we bring the month to a close. On Friday afternoons and Saturday and Sunday mornings, I play video games. Let's see. I believe we're going to try on Saturday to get back to the cold ruins of Last Life. We're going to give it another shot. That's the next date when we were supposed to play, so we're going to try. And again, that's another setting for Dungeon World where we're all playing undead. And then that Sunday, 1 week from today, will be the start of April one-shots, and I will be running Deadlands Noir. That and my own sort of a series of one-shots I've sort of put together called Tales of the Dust Bowl. It is something I've taken the sort of 1930s setting of Deadlands Noir, and I've re-injected some of the Western flavor back into it, so it's more Western noir horror. A lot of folks have said that it's kind of like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou with Monsters, which is something I'm very happy with. And so that will be going on 1 week from today, the first of the 3 scenarios. And I am very excited to see how it plays on stream. And incidentally, I am still looking for players for those one-shots. So if that sounds interesting, or if you're interested in a Cypher System game closer to the end of April called Codex Fantasia, sort of a fantastical Renaissance-ish game, or the short campaign I'm doing next month, which is RVR, a Hack of Lady Blackbird, where I have Shakespearean robots in space. All those have sign-ups that are open on my website. You can go, or down below. There's a sign-up link down below here. And that will take you to the page on the website. It's at gymyesthatgym.com, and just click on the game sign-up link. And that will tell you all about the things and give you links to each of the individual sign-up forms. So please go and check those out if you're at all interested. As always, beginners are welcome. Well, when we get to the end card, we're going to send a raid over to Happy Jack's RPG. They are playing Traveler right now, I believe, which is a game they are all very fond of. I have never played it myself, but they seem to know it inside and out, or at least the gentleman what's running it does, Stu. So I'm going to go send that over there. And in the meantime, thank you so much for watching, folks. It's been a great pleasure to play this. Take care, and I will see you all of a sudden.